right. So we're recording this probably like a couple of weeks, or by the time this episode releases, it'll probably be a couple of weeks from now. But yesterday, a severe thunderstorm rolled over at Norfolk, Virginia, at Naval Air Station Norfolk, and it experienced such a severe thunderstorm that a bunch of 53s, CH-53s, actually MH-53s, and a couple MH-60s were flipped on their sides.
Yeah, I mean, even one of the 60s was almost on its main rotor.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, like an MH-53 or a CH-53 to some other people, this Super Stallion or King Stallion, whichever variant you're used to knowing, this thing's pretty heavy, right? I mean, it has a gross weight or a maximum gross weight of about 46,000 pounds. So for something like that to just get blown over, it takes quite a bit of wind. And from what we understand so far, the investigations for these are still ongoing, probably up until now by the time this episode releases. It's the thunderstorm that rolled in had an excess about 60 miles an hour, or average of 60 miles an hour. So for those who are not very savvy with aviation, like anything over 30 knots is considered severe weather. And the reason
most aircraft won't take off in more than a 10 to 15 knot crosswind.
Yes.
That's not very much,
It's not very much at all, but like, okay, so why not? Well, especially with crosswind or like say wind that's blowing perpendicular to the runway, if it's over a certain speed, then it's going to push the aircraft off its center. And especially when it's taking off and landing, you don't want to be pushed off your center like almost at all, because you're sloping in or you're sloping out. You're aiming for the center and you get blown off, you're most likely going into the dirt, which is not fun. And it could lead to more severe incidents or accidents besides just landing hard. And
you could say, well, what about autopilot, the pilot's reactions? But I mean, those are still very difficult situations to control, a 46,000 pound helicopter in, or any aircraft really. I mean, and the lighter the aircraft, the worse, right?
Yes. And you would think that something as heavy as a MH-53 or even an MH-60 with gross weight in excess of 46,000 pounds, that it'd be pretty hard for it to get flipped over. Well, I mean, these things are meant to be in the air, so they have some form of aerodynamic capabilities. And if you get a severe enough wind and blown at the right angle, it's going to want to take off. So, I mean,
this was even one of the heavier 60s. Because This one was an anti-submarine, anti-ship warfare built one. So this one had some heavier armament on it, as it were, more so than just maybe your sea rescue, going out and picking up people who fell off a boat or got stuck in a storm type thing.
Right. So these things, like, they had a particular payload that makes it closer to its max gross weight or max takeoff weight. So, I mean, again, for these things to get blown over is not an easy feat. There are times
now you could be saying, well, how did it blow over? I mean, because I just mentioned, deep sea rescue and all that kind of stuff. Well, those things, flying hurricane winds, right?
Yep.
Going out there trying to save people and whatever else. But, it's just a freak of nature what weather is. These were sitting on the ramp and like a deck of cards in the breeze, made of aluminum. Yeah, they're heavy, but Mother Nature's heavier.
Yep, exactly. And especially when it's in the air, you got some counteracting forces to a certain degree. Like, it's flying on its own power. It's got its own it's got its own lift. It's countering the forces that's already acting on as is, right? And this is in ideal conditions. So it has to some degree some control. But again, that's assuming that there's a pilot and aircrew in there managing and counteracting these forces, versus when it's on the ground and weather so happens to enact its forces, it's almost in a way simulating mid-air conditions, and it's not on the ground, or it's not being controlled by anybody. It's going to want to do what nature tells it to do. And according to this article, it says that a total of 9 helicopters So not a complement of both MH60s and MH53. There were 9 total that were turned over on its end. The safety of the personnel, which I hope was in factor, according to this, not as far as we know, no one got hurt, and the reports are still ongoing to see what the extent, if anyone did in fact get hurt, and then just how badly the damage is for these planes. But if you guys
the saving grace for many of these helicopters was their main rotor blades. Like you can see some of these, they got a 45-degree bend in them, but that's the only thing that saved it from rolling completely over.
Yeah. And if you see these pictures, they look pretty bad. Like some of them they're easily on their sides, and some are almost close to being completely flipped over, kind of like a turtle almost. And at this time where we're wondering, like, well, how could this have been prevented, right? Like, was there any type of weather warning? Was there any type of securing equipment other than just being out on the line, just taking the weather? And again,
and why weren't they tied down to the pad eyes? I don't know.
Yeah, again, like a lot of this stuff is under investigation, and for all we knew, like the weather could have turned for the worse before they could react, or before the personnel there could react and tie them down in time for it to not get damaged. Or it could have been that the weather turned, they were starting to secure them, and the weather turned for the worse before they can secure them all completely. At this time we don't know. All we do know is that around 3:30 p.m. At the time of the incident,
this would be Eastern Standard Time for those in the United States and outside of the United States, I suppose, as well. But
right, so about 3:30 that time, a severe thunderstorm warning was issued, and it lasted for about an hour and some change. And the residents there reported the winds were up to 60 miles an hour, which we said again. And it doesn't say exactly when the aircraft started to turn for the worse. It was either at 3:30 or closer to 4:15 around that time. Doesn't exactly say. But again, with severe weather, it's very unpredictable how it may affect the flight line. Because even with us, like we get like these lightning trackers or lightning strike trackers that can go as far as 20 miles of where the nearest lightning strike can be, and for the most part we ignore it unless like it's starting to trend that it's encroaching on the line. And usually you hear like these different warnings, like lightning strikes within 20 miles, lightning strikes within 15, and depending on how severe the weather conditions are in your region, it can go from 20 miles to on top of your head real fast. Especially like somewhere in the East Coast where weather conditions can be wildly unpredictable, or in like the Midwest where severe weather just comes and goes whenever it feels like. Especially like with severe thunderstorms or tornadoes, they come and go as they please, and sometimes you just have like no warning whatsoever until it's on top of you. So,
I can attest to the weather rolling in off the coast there in the eastern seaboard. I spent many years growing up in the Outer Banks, and afternoon storms in the summer. They just rolling off the coast. I mean, you'd see the dark clouds way out there, and hell, that's hours away. But within an hour, it'd be on you.
Yep,
just like that. And that's also where I got hit by lightning through the water lines. I was in the shower. We had just come off the beach and was in the shower, and lightning struck the water pipes outside, and it's sent it all the way through to me. What a shocking experience, but
definitely.
But to attest to the how it can creep up on you. I mean, it's fast.
It's very fast. And again, sometimes too, like your inclement weather conditions just might not be enough, depending on how severe the weather is, or the response time may not just be enough, because there are times too where we ourselves, we get the lightning warning, like, oh, lightning's within 10 miles. That's not grounds for us to shut everything down and start tying things up. It's kind of an indicator to us that, hey, maybe we should start looking at what we can put away. But again, like if lightning or severe weather is coming in within 10 miles, by the time we start getting things ready to put things away, it could be right on top of our heads and catch us off guard really fast. So it's kind of like one of those like, well, what's the weather looking like, or what's the trend looking like? Because if we say like, oh, weather is happening within 20 miles, and we start putting things away, and then the weather moves away from us, now we just lost time by putting stuff away and having to bring it back outside, or turning things back on because we were doing it as a precaution. So it's kind of like one of those, how preventative can you get without causing undue delays? And especially with the control world or operations world, when you cause undue delays, that undue delay equals money lost, and money lost means unhappy customers. So
yeah,
it's
think about the time now that these birds are going to be down, NDI repairs, all that other kind of stuff. What's interesting is that most military bases, and no matter what branch, all have some sort of weather tracking system and a unit dedicated to it. Always 24/7 watch. There's always somebody there looking at the weather and monitoring and making calls, especially if it's on off-duty hours, to individuals. Hey, we got weather rolling in, and there's a skeleton crew that's going to come in and try to prep and get ready for that. You know, I mean, most places around the country, when you got severe weather warnings in the forecast, you're already out there on the grounds. You're putting inside the hangars what you can and what you can't. You're strapping down for dear life on the outside, and typically those are your older assets.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even Six, you and I in our past, I mean, we had to monitor weather right in our office. We had that weather tracking system, but it would also had that audible blip that if there was a lightning strike, it would beep, 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 beep every time lightning would strike. So we'd have to run back there and see how close it was. And okay, we're still at, 50 miles or whatever. All right, let's keep an eye on it. Maybe it'll go around us. Oh, we're down to 30 now. Shoot, it's rolling in. Oh, we're down to 25. All right, everybody start putting stuff away and get the hell off the line. So it's very interesting that call wasn't made here on the Navy base. And maybe it was. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe somebody was sleeping at the wheel. I don't know.
Right.
The investigation will find out, and boy, God help whoever that is if they were caught slacking on duty. But the interesting part is that call wasn't made. That's very, very surprising to me.
Yeah. And it is to me as well. And again, that kind of goes into like, what was their weather tracking system like? What were the crews doing at the time? Or did it happen so fast? Like it's very hard to predict. And we at this time we couldn't know because the full report hasn't been given yet, or it's still ongoing. And if someone did fall asleep on the wheel, like MVP was saying, or maybe they were expecting it to turn around at the 20-mile mark, because that's something that we've seen too, where like we jump the gun and say, okay, start putting everything away, and it comes within 15 or it comes within 10, and then it turns around and goes away. How likely that could have been, we don't know. But just based off the pictures and just based off of what we've seen so far, it looked pretty bad. Like it was pretty easy to see like just how bad this could have been. Or maybe it could have been complacency on somebody's part where like, oh, no, these things are heavy fucking aircraft. There's nothing going to go wrong with them. And then to just be proven wrong by the weather where it gets blown on its side. We've seen that happen too, where individuals would think, oh, it's just heavy rain. Nothing bad's going to happen. And then heavy rain turns into heavy lightning storms. Heavy lightning storms turn into microbursts. And then next thing you know, the hangar roof is getting blown off the hinge.
Well, I mean, looking at these pictures, so there's somebody inside the hangar leaning over the front end of a tug, taking a photo out on the ramp, and there's 160 and 253s on their sides or even almost on their heads. But all you can see is, and it looks like a really terrible cell phone picture, but that's just the amount of rain coming down, distorting the image, and then you can see nothing behind it. So that's how thick and fast and hard this rain and wind were pounding.
Yep. And for all we know, too, what could have happened was they saw the severe storm rolling in, and the first priority is like, you know what? Get all the people inside. I could care less what happens. That probably could have been it too. Like,
yeah,
like that could have been it too. Like the safety of our people is more important than the safety of these planes. That could have been it. And honestly, we probably could have made that call to ourselves, because we've seen some issues happen where we see lightning strike within a few yards of us, and they're like, dude, forget everything, just get inside. If these things blow over and things start tearing off the hinge, whatever, as long as you're safe, we'll make amends somehow, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that could probably be in the case too. Like, I can replace planes, I can't replace humans, or I can't amount to the value of a human. So that could have been it too. Again, we don't know. We're talking about a lot of variables here that could have possibly have played a factor, and I'm hoping that it leans towards the line like either the storm rolled in faster than they expected and they didn't have time to react, or they saw it coming and they said, "Fuck it, let the planes be. I want you guys safe." I'm hoping either case that was one of those. If it was anything other than that, there's going to be a pretty passionate one-way conversation to all the people involved.
A passionate one-way conversation.
A very passionate one-way conversation.
Oh yeah, you're gonna see how much somebody really cares about you right there.
Right. Every colorful cuss word imaginable.
So these were considered Class A ground mishaps.
Ew.
I don't know, most of us who work in aviation know that there's different categories for mishaps depending on what happens. And can I remember those off the top of my head right now? No. And we can always find that information and get it out to you guys. But all these were considered Class A's.
Ew. So Class A, if I remember correctly, it's if there's permanent or total, or it's either some type of death, injury, or a serious injury, or a loss of aircraft or components where the total damage is like 2.5 mil or higher, something like that.
Yeah, so each organization and each branch has probably their own variant of that.
Right.
Because I know for my current program, ours is anything over. It's like 5 mil.
Yep.
I think it's considered total loss. But and then anything under 500K is non-reportable, like chump change type shit, Sucks, but oh well.
Right.
And type deal, like non-reportable. Basically, nobody has to know. Like, it doesn't have to go all the way up the chains. You're not notifying, generals and stuff, or your company presidents. This is kind of like, hey, some stuff got damaged. Well, how much was it? Under 500K? Oh shit, our insurance will cover that. Whatever,
Yep. And vice versa. We've also seen organizations where, like, say, like someone broke the lock ring on a cannon plug. That's considered an incident. Like, this has to go all the way up the ladder. Like, hey, so and so broke a cannon plug lock ring during a pre-flight, and they're waking up the colonel for this kind of thing. Like, really? Yep. This is an incident. Or someone gouged like the skin of an aircraft, like not like a serious gouge, but like just enough to be considered a gouge. Like
their screwdriver slipped.
Yep.
And marred up the skin. And so, everybody's gonna know about this. And you're like, do they though? Like, we can fan that down and whatever. Not detrimental to the flight. Yeah, but this is really bad. Well, I'll agree with you. It's not the best circumstances, but I mean, nobody's hurt and the asset's structurally sound, so I think we're okay.
Yeah. I mean, go ahead and fill out the report, but I'm not going to wait for authorization if it's within our standard repair procedures. So, and that's exactly what they're going to tell us too. Like, well, is it within your procedures to repair it? Like, yeah. So do it. and we've had those cases before where, like, well, it's in your spec to fix it, so why not just fix it? Like, oh, we need your approval to do it. Like, are you serious? Like, you're supposed to ask for approval if it's outside of your procedures. That's when it matters. Or if it's so severe where this thing has to be impounded and cordoned off, like a crime scene kind of deal. So why are you waking me up at 2 a.m. for this? Mm-hmm. And again, this is all organization specific. We've been to ones where any type of issue is an incident, and vice versa. We've had times where, like, if it's not over 500K of damage, then whatever wash your hands and do what you got to do, but don't call me again.
And then there's ones where it's like, oh, it's a B. Yeah, somebody got hurt, but like it's not life threatening. They just got a deep cut or maybe a broken finger or whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like, you know, it goes on down the list where it's like, oh, somebody, you know, they got a bruise. Oh, well, rub some dirt on it and go back to work, you know. Navy reported they said known damages to the aircraft spanned from broken tail and rotor blades, main rotor blades, structural dents and punctures in the airframes, but no personnel were injured.
Phew. I mean, that's a big plus. Like, thankfully, no one got hurt, and I hopefully, and in my mind, I'm hoping that it was because that was a command decision. Like, yo, just get the hell off the line. Don't even fuck with these things. Let the weather do what it's got to do, because last thing I need is for you to try to be a hero and try to moor this thing down in the middle of a thunderstorm and your ass gets blown away, if not or crushed by a 40,000 pound fucking aircraft. No. Hopefully that was the case. I'm hoping that really was. And the incident report, when it does get published, if it does get published for the public, that we see that was along the lines. I mean, we already know these aircraft are pretty much trash. Like, if they are going to do any repairs to this, it's going to be a good while before these things are back in the fight.
We've had episodes on cannibalization and all that. Well, you just found your next prime cannibalization assets. Thank you for your service. We'll take this. Thank you for your service. We'll take that. So the article goes on to say, when given enough warning, aircraft in the path of bad weather are taken into their hangars and or tied down. However, the storm came in at a time when aviation maintainers are usually in the midst of a shift change. Oh. It's likely that most of the personnel were indoors and would have limited time to bring the aircraft in the hangars. I feel like that excuse is also going to draw a passionate one-way conversation from somebody. So you're telling me because of your shift change, we couldn't get these inside and nobody was paying attention to the weather? You know, that's... I don't feel like that's going to stand very well. I mean, that's what happened, but somebody's going to get really loved on.
Yeah. I imagine so, especially when the weather, severe weather was trending towards negative. Like,
yeah, you must be if you're the commander. So tell me then, shipmate, what were you briefing in your shift turnover that was so important you could have taken care of this? I swear to God, I better hear something in there about severe weather. Let me see your notes. I see we were making jokes about Johnson again. And something about digging at the Cowboys. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and sign you up for weekend work for the rest of your career.
And you're fired.
Yeah, and also you're fired.
Report to the tool crib no later than 05 tomorrow morning. Again, we're making light of this stuff because we know at this time that nobody got hurt, and for lack of better reporting based on this article, that most of the people were doing other things than being outside for the most part. And we don't know if there was any flights happening, if there's any training going on at the on the line at the time. We just don't know.
I'll tell you what happened. First shift was out there going, man, that fucking weather looks like it's getting bad. Maybe it'll hold off long enough to where we can get second shift, swing shift, take care of that. Skedaddle inside, and Swings is going, you sons of bitches. I saw them planes still sitting out there. You can try to put this shit on me. Well, joke's on you. I'm going to drag my feet checking out tools. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like, nope. It's still not my time to clock in.
You still got 30 minutes on the clock yet, day shift. Get back out there.
Yeah, like, don't be trying to milk 30 minutes to check in tools. I see you. I see you.
I see what you're doing. Yeah. You can't play a player.
You can't skate a skater.
So somebody it's been kind of a bad month for month of July for weather for the Navy, because on July 8th they're saying a storm out in the Mediterranean blew a F-18 Super Hornet off the deck of the Truman. So, oh boy, I'd hate to. Can you imagine being that crew chief? What's the status of your plane? Wet? Well, why don't you dry it off? I don't know if I can dry off this much water, sir.
It went for a swim, sir. Like, what?
The Super Hornet is now a super torpedo.
It wants to experiment life as a submarine.
Yeah. It changed its MOS.
I mean, granted, that's terrible. Hopefully there was nobody in it when that happened. But yeah, like, again, passionate one-way conversations will be given. And I would not like to be a maintainer in any of those situations, just because either A, I'm the one responsible, or being held responsible for it, or B, like, I'm the one who's going to have to be the ones to figure out a way to unflip this aircraft or recover it in some fashion, and then and start finding out ways to fix it if it is going to get fixed. For these ones, since it's mostly rotor damage, I would assume like they'll probably just do like a hard landing inspection to some extent, maybe a sudden stoppage inspection. We already know the blades are trash, so that's probably going to get replaced. But as far as like the rest of the airframe, the rest of the components.
Yeah, and obviously they'll have to do a rotor vibe and balance, you know?
Yep. I mean, for the most part, it looks like the main structure doesn't look that damaged. I mean, that's yet to be assessed, obviously, but if the structure's fine, they'll probably just replace all the major items that got damaged critically, and then just do like some type of vibration analysis, some kind of diagnostic test to make sure that everything else is working great. And they'll probably
this will be after weeks of NDI inside the hangar.
Oh, most definitely. Because I remember there was a time when a main tail rotor blade got damaged. Just some random shit blew it into it, and it just caused it to have some kind of nicks and dings. It wasn't enough to cause a sudden stoppage, but it was just enough to damage the rotors. And that thing was under cordon and sectioned off for investigation for like the better part of like 2 to 3 weeks. And a lot of diagnostics went into it to make sure everything was fine, that there wasn't any underlying damages that we couldn't see. NDI was all over this thing.
Yeah, I mean, they'll have to do a full avionics checkout on it, ground runs, you name it.
Yep. I mean, eventually got back into the fight. They just had to replace the tail rotor hub and blade assembly, maybe, and then
just replace the everything.
The everything. And then do a vibration check and all that stuff, track and balance, all the wazoo. And it was fine. It went back into the fight right as rain. These ones, though.
Now, I wonder, though, if there's what the hours on these components are, right? Gearbox, engines, main rotor shaft, airframe itself, right? You know, before it goes back for complete overhaul or whatever. Let's say to send it to Sikorsky, who's going to completely gut it, strip it to the bare metal, NDI, re-primer paint, and the whole 9 yards. So I wonder if there's some of these where like, we were about 1,000 hours out anyways, so might as well send them back now, you know, put them on a truck.
Right, yeah.
One thing I want to say in looking at these pictures, when, you know, they're all on the ramps, so all these helos are in alignment, they're all kind of canted to the side one way or another, a little messed up. And I just want to put a caption that says, when you and the boys go out for the night, but still have to be back at formation at 5 a.m., you're all kind of standing half cocked and fucked up, you know?
all off to the side, like, oh, God.
Just still sweating it out from the night before, you know?
Just give me a minute, Chief.
They look like they're about to go run for some PT and throw up the whole time.
Just give me a minute. God damn it. And then they go right back out on the next week and do it all over again.
Yep. Like they didn't just learn.
You didn't learn today, obviously. Yeah. Again, we're making light of this because at this time we know that no one got hurt. I mean, yeah, sure, there's going to be a lot of cost that's going to go into this. And every people are saying, like, with the overhaul stuff, if they are just going to cut the time cycle, like, you know what, we had 1,000 hours, let's just replace it now. And then vice versa, like say if the supply system even has replacements for these things, because there was 9 total that got affected, and who knows what that supply chain is looking at right now based on what actually needs to get replaced. So they may have, their inspections may have been greenlit, just say, hey, just replace XYZ, but then XYZ has like, I don't know, like a 3-week lead time. So I mean, everything's all good to go. We just gotta wait for all the shit to show up, and chances are these things are gonna turn into canned planes, just like MVP was saying. And so any usable parts probably can get moved over to whatever is operational just to maintain operations. And then if and when these parts do show up and you have to start piecemealing it back together again.
Yeah, holy cow.
So yeah, that's gonna be a fun time. I mean, again, I would not want to be the mechanics for this for a good while. And it's definitely going to be a fun story for a lot of people who were there. Like, oh yeah, dude, like this 46,000 pound plane just like totally flipped the bitch on its side. Like, damn, that sucks. But it's also again it's also one of those stories like it just sounds too good to be, or too fucked up to be true, until you see like the newspaper articles about it. Like, holy shit, they weren't kidding. They really weren't joking.
Yeah. You also want to be like, there was one dude, it was his last day on duty, and he was like, I got vacation. Bye.
Yeah. Or like again, like that one person who was just one day away from calling it quits, and like, God damn it.
I should have punched the button. Should have hit the button. Or there's the one guy who was like a week out from retiring.
Yeah.
Oh. And that's a fact.
Yeah, yep. Like, oh, God damn it. Oh, why? Why me? But yeah, going on, like, circling back to all this, like the weather itself is very unpredictable. And for all we know, like this stuff swung on them like before they were ready to react or capable of reacting because of whatever reason. And from our personal experiences, like weather itself can really affect you before you know it. We've seen weather where it literally blew planes off their chocks, and it was rather unsafe to try to do anything about it. Do we just kind of like, well, do we just let it run its course until the weather lets up, or do we try to be a hero and save it? Because in the process of doing that, we ourselves could get hurt, and that's going to be even more snafu for everyone else to account for. So that would definitely suck.
Yeah. It sucked big time.
Yep. Any other thoughts about this or anything else, MVP?
No. I'd be curious to see what the investigation kicks out as to why everyone was inside and not dealing with the inclement weather, which seems like they would have known about. Again, every installation I've been had a unit, a weather unit, a bunch of uniformed meteorologists tracking the weather 24/7 and reporting as such. Like they're to the point where they're actually annotating numbers and barometric pressures and stuff on like a 10-minute interval. Every shift. So very surprised that a call wasn't made beforehand, or even from like your senior chief on the line, or your maintenance control guys, or anybody on the line, like, hey, these clouds are getting a little dark and the wind seems like it's getting a little breezy. Mm-hmm. Just want to put my hand up and say, should we start moving these in? But yeah, it's a strange situation. Again, yeah, weather moves quick, but again, just banking off of my own experience, like why, who didn't make the call,
right? Or
why wasn't the call made?
And it could also very well be that one stubborn person was like, well, you guys are afraid to get wet. Like, get out there and do my operations. We've seen some of those happen before. Like, it's kind of lightning over our heads. I'm like, well, are you scared to get wet? I'm like, no, I'm scared of fucking dying.
I don't feel like being cooked like a microwave dinner either. So
yeah, in the process of trying to get your flight ready, that's in the process of getting fuel while there's lightning happening. I mean,
tastes like burning.
Tastes like electrocution, explosions. Last for me, man, is like, don't fuck around with the weather. Like, again, with the call being made, there's so many precautions that could be enacted that could now be in the process or that should be involved, should be added to your standard processes or procedures, it's it's not something you want to play around with, especially when you're in an area that's prone to bad weather or that
Yeah.
has a trend of bad weather, especially the ones that turn very quickly. Like if you're in the West Coast, like where we are, where the most severe weather you're going to get is wind.
Yeah. And
It
heat.
gets, and heat. It's tolerable, it's manageable, and it's kind of sort of predictable. Meaning, like we know around this season it's going to be bad winds, so just be on the lookout for X, Y, Z. Or we know that with this heat wave coming, there's going to be a lot of fluctuations in wind direction, something to that effect. So again, like know the trends of your areas, and don't just assume that like the weather will just do what you need it to do, or push the envelope and like, oh, we can wait until it hits 5 miles, or we can wait till it hits 10 miles or something. Like if you see it bad happening, it wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah. So you're supposed to stop all any and all airport operations with lightning within 5. Don't wait till lightning's within 5 to make a call, though.
Yes.
Six and I have both made a call where we're like, man, that lightning looks like it's closing quick. All right, everybody start putting shit away. What? Why? There's nothing outside. I'm like, yeah, but you guys aren't seeing lightning because it's not here yet. But I'm tracking it on this database, and it's coming this way. And sometimes we had them put all the birds away, and they're like, and then boom, the storm hits, and they're like, oh wow, that was quick, just like that, just like we're saying, weather moves quick. But then there's been times where put it all away, nothing. I mean, nothing. Perfect conditions. And, the storm cell just happened to make a hard U-turn and send off another direction. Everybody's giving you a bunch of crap for it. But I'd rather get crap for that than for having guys outside working in dangerous conditions.
Absolutely.
Trying to do last minute stuff, saying, what's up with the last minute call, right? Much better to get hazed for making a call and putting everything away and nothing happening than the inevitable ass chewing you're going to get for damaged assets and or worse people.
Yes, that's exactly that.
Yeah, you may get a call sign. Oh, hey, weatherman's here. Oh, isn't Mr. Within 5? But better than I blame you for so and so dying out there, because of your poor decision making. You can call me weatherman. That's fine.
Yeah, or
I can take it.
Or what some areas they call it code red. Like, oh, Mr. Code Red over here.
Mr. Code. Yeah, I mean, my call sign is Man Bear Pig. Hey, go ahead and call me weatherman. I don't think you're going to hurt my feelings.
Yeah. Or like, what's the weather looking like now, weatherman? It looks like clear skies. Like, man, he's like, I mean, laugh now.
Looks like pre-flight inspections for last minute schedule changes. Double guns and walk away.
Sucker.
looks like overtime and weekend work. Bitch.
Again, like it helps to be preemptive. It helps to it's better to jump the gun a little bit and was like, oh hey, or give a sign of precaution or err to the sign of caution, than to experience the alternative, which is having that very passionate one-way conversation because you damaged equipment, you damaged people, and you caused more than just undue delay.
Yeah, or
for
attending
everybody.
the funeral of a friend. Nope.
Absolutely, definitely. That
Nope.
you definitely don't want that on your conscience.
I always tell people err on the side of caution.
Absolutely.
Even if why you erred on the side of caution doesn't come to fruition, nobody's going to blame you for that. You might get teased like we were talking about, but deep down inside, nobody will blame you for erring on the side of caution.
Absolutely.
And if they do, we need to have a little sit down.
Yes. This is
talk about priorities.
Yes,
what true priorities are. I don't give a damn about your maintenance priorities at that point. I'm talking true priorities between personnel and an asset and what's more important.
Yes. Well said. Very well said. But what do you guys think? Like, until this incident report gets kicked out, what do you think that should have happened? What do you think did happen? What do you think could be done about it? Let us know in our comments. Let us know social media, on our website, our emails, whichever is the easiest way for you to get in contact with us. Or
if you were actually stationed there in Norfolk, we'd love to have you on to talk about it.
Absolutely. Like, tell us your feedback. What could have happened? What did happen? And what steps could be done to prevent it from happening again? Please, by all means. Also, or if you want to get to our Discord, we can have all sorts of conversations about this. We continue to have conversations about things of this nature. That's like the absolute best way to interact with us. So if you join on Patreon, you can get on our Discord, and then we can have all sorts of conversations both in and out of aviation. And that's, again, like the best way to interact with us. And also, if you have any topics or you have questions or you want to add more to this, again, hit us up on those social medias or emails, or join us on Discord. We're very receptive to hearing your feedback. We very much welcome your feedback and then any other inputs you guys have for us. And on that note, thanks everybody again for listening, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Bye, everybody.
We would like to take this time to thank our patrons for supporting our show and allowing us to make episodes, maintain our gear, and create merch for all of our listeners. With special thanks to Erica Lamont, Chris Hawkins, Dan Schubert, Ryan Frushauer, Kyle Keir, Caleb Stockhill, Jenny Dignan, and Jennifer Brofer. Thank you all so much for your support and patronage. If you like our show, please support us on Patreon. You'll receive awesome perks such as access to our private Discord, discounts on and early access to merch, first glimpse of our comics and other projects, and so much more. Visit our shop at cancelformaintenance.com and grab some swag to show off both your support for us and your prowess as an aircraft technician. If you have suggestions for the show or have a guest recommendation to be on the show, send us a line on our contact us section at our website, and we will do what we can to get your ideas and or your recommendations on the show. You can also follow us on social media, such as on Facebook at Cancel for Maintenance, Instagram at Canx, that's CANX for Maintenance Podcast, Twitter at CXMX Podcast, and now you can catch us on Tapas, where you can view our latest comics. Check out our affiliate, RockwellTime.com, for watches and eyewear that support both your sporty and classy lifestyles. Use the code CX4MX, that's the number 4MX, to save 10% off your total purchase. Thank you all again for your listenership and support, and we will see you all next time.